Stephen Johnstone is a massive 140 hitter, but uses quite a big dart, likes to switch down to the 19s, and yeah, I think that could land again today.
And the old chunky stumpies.
The old chunky stumping. Yes, this was the match that produced the highest finish of the week, the 167 from Stephen, and he's loving his time up there. He's constantly got a smile on his face, playing with passion. I love it.
It was Stephen Johnstone who came out
first
on top.
leg, it's James to throw for.
Really kept him well and truly in the mix here. Stephen Johnstone is joining us as the ADC qualifier this week, taking on James Richardson, a recent ADC champion. James Richardson's actually a belt holder as well, actually, on the ADC.
He is, yeah.
The European champion.
Those belts are going to be back up for grabs soon. I thought the last I heard they were going to be
100
competing for them here at the Live Lounge.
We mentioned an awful lot yesterday that the strength of Stephen Johnstone is that finishing.
45, James Dukar 91.
Finished at 51% for his Group A campaign, and yesterday was 15 out of 38, which, despite being a little bit less than what we saw in Group A, is still mightily impressive.
Yeah, these little two-dart combinations. It's with regularity and right on cue. It's a break of throw in 17 darts.
You mentioned up at the top that Stephen Johnstone is just loving life here and is really enjoying his experience. And I managed to have a bit of a chat with him yesterday as we was leaving the venue, and he's just saying, I'm just a pub player. I've never played darts outside of Scotland. This is just sort of a dream opportunity, and he's just, like you mentioned, playing with a lot of passion.
Yeah, and a lot of freedom. He's really embraced it, hasn't he? And he's
96.
Like he said yesterday, he said, I'm loving it. He said, I can't believe I'm still in the mix.
And I think what we're seeing from Stephen Johnstone here is potentially a player emerge who could get another invite. We could see him again.
Well, we've seen that before, haven't we, with players who have come through the ADC qualifiers but have made such an impact
81.
that they have been invited back, and I'd certainly love to see him back. And well, his journey's not over yet, that's for sure.
He's being outscored and outplayed at the moment by Stephen Johnstone.
Should go ball, really.
50. James Dukar 132.
That's something I've not even been able to question him on as well. He's clearly watches a lot of darts and very passionate about the game, never really gets his maths wrong, always seems to go the right routes.
Yep.
60. Stephen Dukar 57.
He's noticeably improved as he's become more and more comfortable with the environment.
Stephen Johnstone.
We're seeing really just an example of that here, and an example of the finishing which you've already touched on.
Well, you say he's getting better. I can actually back that up with stats.
So
he averaged 76 on day 1, 81 on day 2, 81 on day 3. But yesterday, and this is significant, 83.5. Now, the reason I say that's significant is because if we take darts, that 81 is about 18.4 darts a leg, which means he needs to visit the board 7 times. When he's at the 83, he's now going into the 18 and moving into 17.8, 17.9.
So it's a 6th visit rather than a 7th.
Exactly that, which is probably why he's now starting to win more matches.
45.
Because that slight flick in the averages means he's actually visiting the board 1 time less per leg.
And giving his opponent 1 fewer visit.
Well, when he's got
55.
the throw, if you're going out in 18, he's got to go out in 15, which is forcing your opponent to break you with 100 average.
Yep.
People say averages don't matter. I agree. Most of the time they don't, unless you cross over a line of 3.
Yeah, and then we exactly that. When you break the actual
60.
average down and explain it like that, that's when the averages become relevant.
And now he's broke into that 83. If he
85.
stays somewhere between that 83, it doesn't then become relevant as a talking point until he goes past 93.
Yeah, because it doesn't matter whether he's winning the leg in the 16th dart, the 17th dart, or the 18th dart.
60.
It's that 6th turn.
Level of control of the match.
Yeah.
So because he's now broke that 83, he's going to be competitive against anyone, even the European
100.
champion here, James Richardson, who is the number 5 on the ADC rankings right now.
You can see someone averaging 83, beating someone that averages 93, because they're still within that 6-visit range.
Well, that's where we then talk about timing, because that is what will ultimately come down to, timing the shots, because you're both having the same amount of visits to the board.
Yep. At the moment, Stephen Johnstone's not looked like missing a double.
40.
Well, he hasn't, and he's looked Like you say, comfortable
Game
doing
shot on the
so.
third
That's
leg.
3 from
Stephen
3.
Johnstone.
We've mentioned about it being his strength. This could be a mighty strength on the table because he could add a big, sizable win onto his leg difference whilst really affecting that of James
Fourth leg,
Richardson.
Stephen to throw first.
I think this would put a real spanner in the works here because,
58.
not meaning to be disrespectful here to Stephen Johnstone, but you'd expect James Richardson to win this game with the darts. Thinking this is the best of Stephen Johnstone, it's not. We have seen him win a match this week with a 92.77, so he does have a little bit extra in the locker as well, which might be what he needs to carry him over the line here.
99. 34.
Bit of inexperience.
Like this, where he composes. He's not rushing the situation.
A couple of matches where he won the opening
95.
2 legs and then just went on an absolute blitz. And then another one, he lost the opening leg and then reeled off 4 on
60.
the spin again.
100.
Big last start there from Stephen Johnstone, just to really compound the misery of the 26th for James Richardson, who is being completely outscored here by the consistency
73.
of Stephen Johnstone. It's not that he's blown him away with the big 140s and 180s. 9 scores of a ton or more against just the 2 of James Richardson
100.
right now. Make that 10.
Car
I think right now,
141.
Johnstone will be back with 3 in hand.
Probably expect to see some form of reaction from him based on what we've seen over the last couple of days. He's got one more opportunity to put this one right and get over the line. Starts with the perfect dart. This is brilliant. This is really good here from
140.
Stephen Johnstone. He's just absolutely blown a 3-0 lead, which he should have realistically got the game wrapped up at least twice, 4-0 and 4-1.
81.
And then he's responded in a 3-all situation against the darts with back-to-back 140s.
Well, that point of no return, and you tend to then just throw instinctively rather than with too much thought.
But that means this has to go.
Yeah, not a bad second prize. Double 20 leaves double 19.
Game
And he
shot of the
gets
match,
it.
Stephen Johnstone.
Stephen Johnstone with a brilliant finish in the end. We have back-to-back 15 darters. Incredible game and result in the end.
The man who's throwing the chunky stumpies that got over the line by 4 legs to 3. Stephen Johnstone to get the game wrapped up, a 118 being the highest finish of that particular encounter. But pivotal when you look at the league standings because that moves Stephen Johnstone up to 2nd place in the league standings, moving himself level on points of Alexander Merckx on 8. See the chunky stumpy in action now.
If you're wondering what that is reference to, it's this man's darts. That's the name of them, isn't it? As you can see there, chunky stumpies.
I like the name. I like it. It's original. It's good. And he's throwing them good as well. He's been playing some superb stuff at the back end of this group. And if anything, he probably should have had a very comfortable victory in his opening game against James Richardson. Struggled to get over the line, missed a lot of match darts, but then that last leg really showing a lot of determination and bottle.
Yeah, a couple
First
of
leg is
140s
Stephen
in the
to throw
leg and then
first.
a 118 out.
Game on.
He had to negotiate a real blocking dart 1, found the treble 20, and got the double 19 to win it 4-3 in the end.
100.
And again, it's things that will give him confidence and belief.
Some a case of going, maybe Stephen Johnstone could get himself into the mix, to going, actually, he's a serious contender
100.
here to actually qualify, which would be an amazing story for a man that's never played darts outside of his local area.
How many years he would have to
100.
play to get this amount of under the lights experience?
Well, it's not just that. If he was to make Saturday night's final,
54. Alexander Carr,
first of all, you'd say,
121.
A, he would probably be due a re-invite, so we'd see him again down here.
89.
And B, it would move his weekly payment to nearly £2,000, which would be the most
36.
he's ever won from
Alexander
darts.
Carr,
It's nearly a
32.
Challenge Tour win.
It was an absolute cracker. He won the opening 2
55.
legs in 15
Alexander
darts.
Carr,
I always get a little bit
16.
excited when those sort of shots are going in, because you know if it does go in, you're going to see a little bit of visual
Game shot
passion
on the second
from
leg. Alexander Merckx.
Stephen Johnstone.
96.
Offered this to
Stephen
Stephen
Carr,
Johnstone as he
69.
walked through the door on Monday morning, and he said by the time Friday comes round, you're going to be joint top of the table with 3 other players. He would have bit your hand off.
Absolutely. You know how good he is at a big finish. He's had multiple big shots out this week.
59.
It's got to go. Slide it down the side of that one.
Game shot on the third leg, Stephen Johnstone.
Actually does with dart 3, still in the match.
He asked them,
1 out of
who would be your
40.
ideal dart player? Well, I think if we was to do an ideal dart player
45.
based on the players that we've seen here this week, I think I would have Stephen Johnstone as my best finisher.
57.
For me, it's not even a question who's
96.
the best finisher this week. It's Stephen.
Yeah, statistically, not an opinion.
Stephen Newcar,
well.
40.
I didn't see this coming.
Game shot on the fourth leg, Stephen Johnstone.
Steps in. He's back-to-back legs, 3 and 4 for Johnston. And we're back on the throw.
I mean, just that'd be an interview I'd want to hear, really, to be honest with you, from Stephen Johnstone, because having a conversation with him for the last couple of days on the way out of the venue, he's a very
45.
interesting character. He's someone who's just enjoying every single opportunity that is coming his way in this, and he's really embracing the experience. Insisting on the 20s, a switch to the 18s would have left in the
Six-leg
finish.
Alexander to through first.
There'll always be a moment where you see that inexperience sort of come into play. But that's the first time in 5 days that we've been able to nitpick a little bit at Stephen Johnston.
82.
Well, it's ambitious,
Alexander
Stephen.
18.
But I love it. And all to play for. The only player that's out of the equation is Mark Graham. So nobody's playing that much better than anybody else in the group. So I think it will chop and change, and it may come down to leg difference. It's very much, you know, laughy and jokey at the early stages, but now we're coming to the business end of this Group C.
I'd say, well, that gap can be cut in half if Stephen Johnstone gets a bit of Kenny Nairns in our next match. That's going to be
amazing scenario with 2 matches to go. If Nairns wins this one, we'll have 4 players all in joint second position.
Game shot on the second leg, Stephen Johnstone.
Got over the line in the end. He's halfway to victory, and he's got no experience of these sort of situations before, so there will be no sort of like scar tissue in or bad memories or vibes. This is all just fun and in the moment for him. Where for Johnston, we'll actually see, after 8 laps of fixtures, him in a qualifying position and on points. That where Stephen could go into second place, it'd be an edgy game, but I don't get that vibe with Stephen from speaking to him. I just think he's enjoying every moment.
Yeah, I agree. When I seen him yesterday after his match with James Richardson, which of course was the match that included the 167, he just had a massive smile on his face, and he said, "Oh, I'm just loving
45. it." Can you recall 132?
Can't believe I'm in the mix." I know. Stages of Group C, absolutely fascinating.
140.
Stephen Johnstone.
He does feel like must-win territory as far as Johnston is concerned.
Often we get it like this as well. We've had many groups where by this point it's all been done and dusted, but this was one of the groups we didn't expect that to happen with. This is impressive from Stephen Johnstone. We've mentioned many times throughout the
59.
course of the day the lack of experience he's got, and when it's come down to the game that's probably the most important one of the week for him, he's averaging around about the 90 mark. A game that will keep him in contention
60.
here for qualification, which is probably something that wasn't really in his thought pattern coming here on Monday morning. Kind of got both ends of the spectrum with equipment as well. We've got Stephen Johnston playing at the moment here with the chunky stumpies, and then we've got later on this evening Gary Blades playing with a stiletto.
Sort of a thinner and then get thicker as you go towards the point end.
180. On the 6 leg, Stephen Johnstone.
Once again, Stephen Johnston, very good strike rate. Very good on the doubles in this one. You'll see Stephen Johnson, 50%, 3 from 6.
The final leg, Stephen to throw first.
Well, Stephen Johnson, who's been here all week, the ADC qualifier, flying the flag very well for that organisation. Stephen Johnson, the ADC qualifier, who's never played outside Scotland, just a couple of points. win away from being in the mix of qualifying.
Stephen Johnstone, say first time he's come from Scotland, outside of Scotland, to play darts, play competitive in front of the lights, in front of the cameras. And again, there's another player that this ADC Citizens bringing out where there is something there to work with.
Yeah, listen, he's a pub player, and he'll be the first to admit he loves playing the game. His father was a wonderful player. I know that firsthand after being stuffed by him back in 1998. So, yeah, what you'll take from this, what you've learned over the course of the week, made new friends, looked at how players prepare. You might go away now and think, well, I might try a little bit harder, practice a little bit more. And I'd love to see him back in a couple of months and see how he's developed as a player, and then how he keeps developing. You know, who knows what we could find from the ADC? There's a perfect example.